Ever since becoming a Norse Pagan a few years ago, I've been hearing the conversation around matron and patron deities, and it's always been that concept where I haven't really added my voice to it much at all. If people ask me, I guess I would always say, oh, I suppose Odin would be my patron. This is the Wisdom of Odin after all, and I never really put much weight behind the conversation. But now, after thinking about it for some time and doing some research of my own, I am ready to talk about this subject. So, my name is Jacob, I'm a Norse Pagan, and today we're going to be talking about matron and patron deities. So as always, I have a few sections to this video. Firstly, I want to discuss what is a matron and patron deity, at least to my knowledge and what I've been able to find. And then I want to talk about the history and the origins of this concept, and then move into whether this is something that can be tied to Norse paganism, or at least the pre-Christian Scandinavian religion that the ancestors would have followed. And of course, I will leave you with my final thoughts and notes. But to start, what is a matron and patron? So as I said at the beginning of this video, it's something that I have heard about, and I'm sure many of you have heard about, since becoming a pagan or Norse pagan, a heathen, whatever you call yourself. It's something I think a lot of us hear about. Who do you primarily follow? Who do you primarily work with? And as much as people say, like, oh, you don't need a matron or patron deity, I feel like since it is talked about so much, it has become this slight peer pressure thing, because truly, you do not need a matron or patron to be a pagan, to be a Norse pagan. This is a concept that I feel like has come up naturally in conversation, and it has just evolved and changed more and more. It is a very modern concept. And essentially what it means is that you adhere to one god or goddess primarily. From what I can tell, that there is some circles that believe that a patron or matron deity is an exclusive relationship, which means that once you adhere yourself to this god or goddess, that means you are no longer going to be able to work with any other deities. And what seems to be more common is that matron and patron deities are more of a special relationship, that you tend to work with this god or goddess more, and you tend to adhere your life to it. So that's what a matron and patron deity is. So if you said, oh, my patron is Odin, that means you mostly work with Odin. And again, it does seem to be that there's some people who believe that this means that you only work with Odin. Now, as far as the origins of matron or patron deities, it's hard to say. It looks like to be a chicken or the egg debate, like which came first, the idea of matron or patrons or a faith that followed it, but for the most part it seems to have come from Wiccan influences and then the intermingling of Wiccan ideas and Asatru heathen ideas in the 1970s through the 1990s. Now this isn't inherently a bad thing, I'm just saying that this isn't a concept that seemed to have been birthed from true heathenry or Norse paganism, because it seems like most people that followed Asatru or heathenry, at least in North America, between the 1970s and the 1990s, for the most part were private practitioners, and if they did get into groups, it was most likely within Wiccan circles. So it's only natural that these ideas that Wiccan groups came up with are ones that actually came into Norse paganism as well. This may not being inherently a bad thing, I just think it's important to understand the origins of where matron and patron ideas come from. Now, moving into the only Norse idea that I've been able to find on whether this is a thing that the Norse people would have practiced at all, and if it's something that we should consider with a little deeper of a lens. The only thing I've been able to find comes from the book Asatru for Beginners by Matthias Nordvig. I've not been able to find this information anywhere else or suggested by anyone else. So again, take it with a grain of salt. One person wrote about it, so does that make it law? No. But it's an interesting idea, and I think it's worth sharing. As always, I do apologize about my pronunciation of these words, as I am not someone from Scandinavia. I'm a filthy American, but I will give it my best, and I will put it down below so that you may understand it a little bit better. So there's the idea of Fultrud and Osvinir. And essentially, Fultrud is coming from a story which is Hrocknell's saga Freyasgothi. And it's about a chieftain who builds a temple exclusively for Freyr, and how he only exclusively followed Freyr. Earlier I had talked about the idea that some groups see patron and matron deities as exclusive relationships, and it seems like, according to Matthias Nordvig in this book, that Fultrud is more of that idea, that there are people that decide to have a very close bond with a certain deity and find them to be the only deity, or at least exclusively follow and venerate them. as the word Asvenir seems to be more of loving friend. And there's not a lot of examples given, so I don't know the origins of this word and to what extent it was used, but the term Asvenir seems to mean just close friend, close relationship, and according to Matthias Nordvig, it means that you just have a strong relationship with a certain deity while not being exclusive to that deity. So, it looks like, according to one source, there may be an idea of a matron and patron deity. I will also say that in Tacitus's Germania, it talks about certain cults of certain deities. Like I believe it mentions a cult of Isis, which obviously is a Romanized term for a different deity. It could actually mean Isis from Egypt, but I'm not sure if it actually means a Norse concept as well, because he did change the names of the deities according to the Roman ideal. But the idea of cults and certain splinter groups that seem to focus on certain deities does seem to be a concept, but is a very loosely documented one. So is there possibility that the pre-Christian Scandinavian Germanic society people did follow specific deities and venerate them exclusively? It seems like it could be a possibility, but our information is quite low. Is it something enough to say that everyone needs a matron or patron deity? From what I have and from what I've seen, no, it doesn't seem like there's any information to suggest that as a Norse pagan, it doesn't seem like there's any information to suggest that every Norse pagan practitioner, every pre-Christian Scandinavian society person that followed the old faith had a matron or a patron or a full truth, deity or Asvenir. It doesn't seem like this was necessarily a universal concept, or at least we can't prove it was. While the ideal of matron and patron deities may have originally come from Wiccan ideals that intermingled with heathen ideals in the 1900s, it does seem like there's enough to say that this may have been a concept to some degree in pre-Christian Scandinavian and Germanic society. Yes, if you want to devote your life to one deity, if you want to have a full-through relationship with the deity, sure, it seems like you can do that, but just be aware that that does seem to be more of an exclusive relationship, and according to Matthias Nordvig, it's not something that a lot of heathen groups look at. Now, this Asvenir idea, the close friend relationship with a deity, this is something I can get behind. Just having a deity where I feel like I would say I have more of an Asvenir relationship with Odin, where it's like he is a very close friend, a close mentor, a close father figure, and he has helped me along my way, but by no means do I feel like I'm exclusive to Odin. There is one more concept I want to talk about before I close out this video, and it kind of goes into my personal thoughts on this as well. And it's the tying of oaths to this matron and patron concept. This is something that I find is very common in the community. You may have never heard of it, but it's something I have witnessed a lot, is people are using oaths to say that they have a matron or patron deity. And I don't think there's any evidence to suggest that this is a relationship. That there's nothing in the Prose Edda, the Poetic Edda, in the histories, really nothing that I don't think anyone's written down, that this idea of once you swear an oath to a deity, that makes them your patron. Now, obviously, you have a very close relationship if you are swearing an oath to a particular deity. That I cannot deny. So maybe it's that Asvenir idea. So you have a close relationship. But as far as saying, personally me, I have an oath to Odin, but does that make him my patron? For a while, I believe I might have told you yes, but now that I understand more about this faith, more about the history of it, and more about the modern interpretations of this faith, I'm going to say no, it doesn't. It means I have an oath to Odin. I do feel like I have a close relationship with him, but does one deity particularly own me? Not necessarily. The beauty of polytheism is that we have multiple deities, and I find that a lot of people that come into this from Christianity, while they may not necessarily recognize it, are looking for that dogmatic ideal from Christianity because it's what they're used to. I mean, most of us grew up in churches. Most of us grew up with Christian ideals. And so when we get into a polytheistic religion, we really don't know what to do. And so we look to ideals that are similar to what we were raised with. And we think, okay, who's going to be my one God? Who's going to be the one God I focus on? Because I'm only used to one gods. This is a polytheistic religion, and I think that's something that should be enjoyed, especially when I talk to people that get into the faith and it's their first week, their first month, and they're like, I need a matron or patron. No, you do not. This is a peer-pressured idea coming from an evolution and intermingling of different pagan religions and this weird game of telephone I feel like that gets played in the community. You do not need a matron or patron. And this isn't you don't need a matron or patron, you'll find one eventually. No, you really don't need one. And, that might be hard for some people in this community to hear, but truly, as a Norse pagan, there's really nothing telling you need one. Now, if you choose to have a matron or patron deity, that is your choice, and you're more than welcome to have one. Just understand that this isn't inherently a Norse concept. Just like in oaths in the oath ring video I did, you never have to swear an oath to a deity in your entire life. You never have to swear your fealty to any one particular deity. This is polytheism. This is paganism. You have so many gods to talk to venerate. Ooh. Why not focus on that? Why not enjoy it? And I hope this video has opened up the door to a conversation, because I don't feel like this conversation gets had enough about the fact that matron and patron deities aren't really a thing in Norse paganism, while yet they're talked about all the time. Again, I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I'm not saying you're wrong for having one. I'm just saying that we need to stop making it seem like it's a normal concept. This is a new concept that was birthed out of a modern age, out of Wicca, that was brought to heathenry. And there is very little evidence to suggest that the ancestors would have done something like this in Scandinavia and Germany. I know there's a lot of videos out there, a lot of videos that exist about matron and patron deities that are about how you find one, how you choose them, how you have a ritual for them and things like that. This isn't that kind of video. This was more of like, just laying the cards on the table. This is what we have, and you can choose to do with this information what you will. But I wanted to at least present this in a way that was a little bit different, that was honest, and at least told you, so that way you can make your own conclusions. But as always, thank you so much for joining these videos. Thank you so much for... But as always, thank you so much for joining me for this video. I hope it was helpful for you. I hope it wasn't too much of an attack on matron and patron ideas, but I definitely wanted to share this with you all. But until the hall, skål. If you enjoy the videos here at the Wisdom of Odin and the content I put out weekly, please consider donating to Patreon. Patreon is the way I'm able to do this full time. It's the way I'm able to continue to produce videos like this, but I also try to give you some benefits in return. First being the community Discord, where we plan future gatherings, we talk, we conversate, we learn that we're not alone in this world. I also offer live streams at a different tier, and then early access videos at the final tier, as long as with your name in the credits, as you just saw. But if you choose to support me on Patreon, thank you so very much. But if all you can do is watch these videos, make sure you like, subscribe, and all those good things. But thank you so much, and until the hall, skål.